Hey, DeRacers. There was a couple of people that wanted to get their horses analyzed. So this will just be a quick video, jumping in, walking you through the tools and how I like to take a look. So I'm going to start with Tej's horses, starting with 14, 16. All right, so now immediately when I look into this thing, the first thing I always do when I'm assessing a horse, especially one that doesn't have 1,000 plus, is where is your anchor tracks? And an anchor track to me is anything that is close to 30, preferably higher, that I could be able to look at that data and go, okay, this seems to be the most concrete. So when I'm looking through here, I see that your turf, your 5 and 6, you hit those lots. So I'm gonna start there. So as soon as I look at these numbers, I'm seeing that 36. I'm looking for that natural decline. So we got that 36 down to that 12.3 here, dropping to the 12.8. The more I study linear regression, the more I am convinced of it. The only area that I do not think that the final, or the only area that I think is not going to continue on that, is potentially the very, very last tracks. Because I do suspect we're going to see a pull up on some horses, as I've already been seeing that. So when you look at this linear regression model, it should carry through at least towards the end, and then I wouldn't expect it over here. All right, so now the other thing to look at on this is your reaction time. So unfortunately, 420, 430, that is below average. So that's going to make it really hard for this horse to do well on those short tracks. So essentially, I would skip almost all of these and focus on the later half. And then if you're going to take a look at your later half, the next one I would look at would be, okay, so you're only 2/100ths of a second faster than the global population here. That's unfortunately not very good. So then you go upwards, it should slow down, which it does, to the 12.36, and it should slow down again. So I'm taking a look at this horse. I think this one is going to be a difficult one to find profitability. And it seems like you are struggling with that as well. What I might recommend doing is experiment with a little bit more synth, just because you don't have too much data up here. You got the 40 on this one, so a 12.2374. Again, that's so close to the population average. This one might be really difficult. If this is a Gen 1, which probably not, because it's 14, 16. So Gen 0, I might bench this one and wait till we get the experience credit, so that way you can at least be racking up sugar. So I would definitely be cautious on racing 2s and 3s. Just do a little bit more scatter shotting. I would put just in that upper section. But sorry, man, this is going to be a hard horse to get a profit on. All right, let's take a look at 1530. Okay, so again, on this one, right out the gate, this has a much, much better reaction. So 275, that's solid. So things in the early stages are definitely fair game, and it makes sense. Here you go. On your synth 2s and 3s, you've shown up, which does not surprise me one bit. Having that kind of reaction is very good. All right, so now taking a look at what your numbers are looking like, that's an enormous drop-off. If that's real, which 69 hits is a pretty good one, man, you got a full 1/10 of a second. I would absolutely hit this more. Your indisputable score looks good. Your podium and win rates look good. Definitely keep hitting these tracks, and I think you're going to see profitability. All right, now going beyond that, this one here, see how this lifts up from a 12.4468 to a 12.1249. I think that this is a little bit high. Same for this one. I would not be surprised one bit if you spent a little bit more time in your midsection synth that these numbers would drop down. Having 69 maintaining this is an anchor track. So I think that this is going to be a sign that you're going to do decently here in the middle. Your PPR, I can't imagine is going to be that low for this long. Just try it a little bit more, and I bet you're going to see some good results. The other thing that I would recommend is experiment more with your 5s. 23 is pretty good. But what I like about seeing 5s is, of course, it's a start of all 3. So at 12, 4, 4, 7, 6, still waking up, dropping it down to here, that makes sense, because again, you want to see this one lower than the above. So as soon as I see this drop off, that lift off does not make sense to me. I think that's going to drop down. But the question I have, you got some good speeds. So the fact that you're down here, once you break that 12.2 mark, that's a sign that that horse likes that speed or that track. So I wouldn't mind spending some time on turf. I would probably neglect the dirt, like what you seem to be doing for the time being. These times don't look all that great, but your early synth look great, and I would experiment a little bit more with your turf. But I think this horse has some potential. I really like the fact that its reaction is so good. Okay, your third one, 3019. Again, first thing, great reaction. So that's a good sign. Now let's take a look at your times. That 12.68, that's pretty good. I'm surprised your PPR is not that great. There's still some opportunities here. This that would not, if that maintained, but 19 is not enough. If that maintained, that would be a terrible sign. But the fact that you drop down significantly here, I might hit your threes a little bit more and see if that shows up similar to your other horse. But then let's see, what else do we got that's looking good? Where would be a good anchor for you? I'm not seeing too much quantity. So let's go with your 35 and 31 tracks. At a 12.38, you do drop down. That's a good sign. 12.36, you don't drop down. Okay, so then not only would I recommend hitting your synthetic threes to see if we could pull that down, maybe up to 30 tracks total. The next one that I would focus on would be your turf fives and sixes and find out if this horse has a turf desire. The reason why I would focus here first is because your reaction is so fast. I bet you're quick out the gate. And you're probably going to show up on the quicker side of things, so the shorter tracks. Now, if that doesn't start pulling off, of course, shift further away. I would not say do not ever do the long distance. I'm just thinking for profitability. You're already 200 Dirk in the hole with this horse, so I would focus on getting your profit back as quickly as possible. Again, it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 0, so if you have any desire to stall, I would not think that this is a garbage horse by any means. I think there's some potential. Reminds me of my Golda a little bit, where it's hard to find the profitability, but once you get there, you could just stay in the pocket. You'll probably discover you only have 2 or 3 tracks tops. All right, hopefully that helps. Now, Blaze, let's see what you got, man. 1983. Oh, you got a profitable horse. That's a good start. Good reaction. Anything that's below 300, I think, is really good. So the fact that you're hitting these 276s, that's a good sign. All right. And now, where do you like to race? You go to turf most likely. Let's see why. So you got that 3.6. So you're running the population average, but you only have 5. So your anchor, you're coming up here. Your best anchor I'm seeing so far, we got 169 here on turf fives. And then you got 184 up here. Okay. Now, maintaining a 12.19 on 12s, that is a good pace. So definitely keep staying here until you see that thing drop off. Not sure how competitive that's going to maintain, but that's looking really good. This lift up here, that I would not trust, especially because you have 66 holding that 12.19. Now, from what I've been seeing, this pull up here goes along with some of the stuff that I'm seeing with a couple of horses. I think that this is a sign that stamina is slowing down. So I might not recommend putting too much betting into the turf 15s. I'm noticing that with Skondert, I'm starting to shift back towards 14s because he is slowing up, just like yours seems to be. So I would put a little bit more focus on your 14s. Even though you have a negative PPR, I do not think that that's going to maintain. The 12s, I definitely hit those to make money. But the areas that I am very intrigued by, I would definitely hit this 13. I think that you've had some really bad luck. So at the bare minimum, I think you're going to get a good cycle coming out of this. Maybe you'll be able to get some wins just in a row and just get some of that profitability back. Your 10s on synth, if that were to maintain, that's a huge drop off. And this is pretty bad. So I would not trust this one. This is more in line with what you have here. Population average 400s is pretty decent. I maybe do a little exploring here, but I still, for your sake, let's see, man. Yeah, I would do a little bit here. You got profitability, and so it's the fact that you're already there. You might as well start scattershotting, keep that growth going, but don't invest too heavily. I would like to stay on this 12, I think. All right, the last ones we got all for Fash. We got 4 from you, man. All right, 5060. Are these yours, or are you just trying to buy these things? All right, so, dude, you got profitability of 200, Dirk. This is great. Great reaction. Let's see. The linear regression model follows flawlessly as expected. So you definitely like your 4s. Let's see. How does it look down here? So dropping down by only 200s. That's interesting. Okay. I would expect a little bit bigger of a drop, but yeah, maybe synth is not its thing. You hit a lot on your 8s. With only a 200s, that's kind of surprising. I guess you must have been winning early on that one. So 227. So this is where I'd be more intrigued by the fact that you have like no drop off from your synth to your turf. I would suspect better results down here. So if I were you, I mean, I see that as an opportunity that you just have not had any good runs yet. But if you're seriously maintaining a 12.27 on synth, you should be able to pull like a 12.25. And who knows, if that gets you enough for the population delta, like you might see some profitability there. Your other areas of interest, 118, 127. So like the previous horses we were looking at, I was talking about how the at 12.19 is really good. So you could see you're just on the precipice of that. So the previous horse at that 12.19, if you're maintaining that, that's solid. And look at this, he's getting good PPR on those. So yeah, Fashion, I don't know, man. I would probably still hit these here until you start losing money on them. But the thing that I'd be mostly interested is coming back and trying to do comparisons with these anchors, like 12.29 and then 12.29. Doesn't make any sense to me. I suspect these ones are going to drop down significantly. 3.39, 3.4. I feel like all your early turfs just not enough. Like even though you got 32, 30, 28, like those seem like they're decent, but I've been finding with Scondert, I have to do like 50 plus some places. And with this reaction, I would chance it. All right, what else do you got? 4.29. Ooh, bad reaction. So definitely, definitely going to have to be a long range horse. Not too many races in here, but you're pulling off that 12.2 on the high side. So it makes me think that there's stamina in your works. All right. So I just immediately, with that kind of reaction, would basically ignore everything on this side of the map. Though you have 113 for an anchor, 12.316. Every time I do this, it's the same result. So I would assume that this would get faster. But the fact that you have 69, that's a decent amount. Unless I can't, I still, every time I do this, it pans out. So my guess is that this is borderline because that reaction sucks. I think it's screwing with you here. You should get faster. And as you see, you go one more furlong. You go from that 6 to a 7. You see a drop off, quite a big one from 3.2 to a 2.9. And then you go back to a 2.6. So my guess is 7s and higher is going to be your safest place. I know you got some profitability here, and it doesn't look so good from just these numbers, but man, I would have to think that if you give it some mid-range, you're going to see an improvement on these. But damn, yeah, that reaction is going to hurt you for a little bit. Don't don't do those short tracks. All right, 5.323. We got worse reaction, 4.88, 4.83. Okay, don't run short. All right, what do we got on the end? Do you have any chance? There's a lot of red. This is going to be a hard horse. 322. Yep, that makes sense. Oh man, 53.23. I'm hoping that's a Gen 1, man. This one might be a burner. So looking at this, do you have any hope? Like the ones that you're better than the population, you're barely better than the population. That's rough. And you did a pretty good testing on this one. I feel for you on this one. I have a suspicion that there's little to no hope left on this guy. Even with the jockey and some wearables, he might be better for glue. All right, so last one, 15.97. You need to get some better reaction times. 3.80. It's better than average, but not great. So I'd probably at least cut out the first 4 and focus on anything above, which hopefully means you're good on turf. Let's see what we got. We got 88 as an anchor on here, 12.35. And then this wouldn't line up. Let's see if you have any other ones that would be good. 12.29, and then you drop down here. That makes sense. 12.31, 12.23. This makes sense. Yeah. So looking at the way that this drop off, this is that healthy drop. You almost have 800s. So as you have that kind of a drop off, 700s, I would assume with 88 holding a 12.35, I would suspect that you're going to be hitting something closer to 12.3. And I would think that 600s is going to be fast enough to put up some wins. So I would recommend playing around with 5s. 5s, even though your reaction is bad on this one, the fact that you can maintain that on synth looks pretty good. I would probably do like 8, 10, get yourself closer to 30. If you have no luck in that period of time, then I would shift a little bit later. But I definitely would avoid dirt because you don't have the stamina to get through that. Everything is slow for you. I would avoid dirt 100%. And synth does not look like yours at all. I think the only place for hope is in your turf range. I would definitely try this mid-range first, see if you could get some profitability, because if you come out here, I don't know if your stamina is going to hold. You don't have anything that's standing out, be very exciting. This is decent. 12.2015 on 15s is impressive, but that's a significant drop off going from 106 on 14s. I would have a hard time thinking that this is going to maintain. So I think at best case, you got a mid-range horse. All right. Hope that helps you guys. If you have any other horses, if people watching want me to throw in my 2 cents, I'm happy to do so. Drop some IDs. But I genuinely find the more and more times you put up the data, this linear regression model has been working for me. It's pretty straightforward to read. Go left, right, and then go vertical, see if you can find some anomalies, and then just hit those tracks until you got those anchors. All right, guys, see you on the tracks.